In the big kingdom of Ndoro, a young prince named Adebowale grew weary of the glided cage his life had become. He was handsome, intelligent, and kind, yet every smile directed at him seemed laced with ulterior motives. The princes, the nobles, and even the princesses from neighboring lands all were drawn to his status, not his soul. One night, Adebowale confided in his wise grandmother, the Queen Mother. "Grandmother," he sighed, "how can I find a love that is true when every heart is swayed by the crown I wear?" The Queen Mother smiled knowingly. "Sometimes, my dear boy, the rarest treasures are found when we share the layers that blind us." Inspired by her words, Adebowale hatched a daring plan. He would disguise himself as a humble traveler, leaving behind his royal robes and riches to seek a love that valued the man, not the prince. Adebowale ventured into the hands of Ndoro, shedding his princely garments for simple clothes. He found himself in a bustling village, drawn to the rhythmic clacking of a loom. There, he met a young woman named Eshe, her fingers dancing across the threads as she wove vibrant patterns into clothes. Eshe was not the most beautiful woman Adebowale had ever seen, but there was a radiance to her, a warmth that emanated from her laughter and her gentle spirit. They spent hours talking, sharing stories and dreams. The prince, enchanted by the weaver's simple wisdom and unwavering optimism. As days turned into weeks, Adebowale found himself drawn to Eshe's humble dwelling more and more. He helped her with her chores, listened to her tales of the village, and even learned the art of weaving from her. The more time he spent with Eshe, the more he realized that he had stumbled upon a treasure far more precious than any jewel in his father's treasury. Eshe, too, found herself enjoying the company of a mysterious traveler. His kindness, his intelligence, his genuine interest in her life, all of it touched her heart in a way no man had ever before. Unknown to Adebowale, a greedy nobleman named Chief Olu had his eyes set on Eshe. He was a man of immense wealth and power, but his heart was as cold as the gold he hoarded. He offered Eshe a life of luxury, but she had politely refused, preferring her simple life and the freedom to choose her own destiny. Chief Olu was not a man used to being rejected. He seethed with anger and vowed to have Eshe, even if it meant using force. One evening, as Adebowale was eating a meal under the starry sky, Chief Olu's men arrived. They surrounded the weaver's hut, their faces grim with their intentions clear. While all this was happening, Eshe was inside the hut, not knowing what was happening outside. Adebowale knew that the time had come to reveal his true identity. He stood tall, his eyes flashing with the fire of a prince. "I am Adebowale, son of King Obafemi," he declared, his voice ringing through the village, "and I will not allow this woman to be taken against her will." Chief Olu's men were stunned. They had expected a humble traveler, not a prince. But their surprise quickly turned to fear as Adebowale, trained in the art of combat since childhood, swiftly disarmed and subdued them. News of the stranger's arrival spread through the village like wildfire. The villagers who had grown fond of the kind stranger in their midst rallied around him, their voices raised in a chorus of defiance against Chief Olu's tyranny. The news of the prince's presence reached Chief Olu swiftly. Instead of cowering, his anger intensified. He ordered his most trusted warriors to prepare for a confrontation. Olu, confident in his own strength and size of his force, saw this as an opportunity to eliminate a rival and seize the throne for himself. Back in the village, Adebowale found himself at the center of a makeshift war council. The villagers were eager to protect their prince and their home, but they were poorly armed and outnumbered. Adebowale knew that a direct confrontation with Olu's forces would be a bloodbath. Eshe, however, had an idea. She suggested they use the terrain to their advantage. The village was surrounded by the dense forest and steep hills, making it difficult for a large force to maneuver. They could set traps, ambush Olu's warrior, and whittle down their numbers before a final stand. Adebowale agreed. Eshe's intelligence and resourcefulness had impressed him from the start, and now her strategic mind was proving invaluable. The next few days were a blur of preparation. The villagers led by Eshe and Adebowale worked tirelessly to fortify their village and set traps. They dug pitfalls, sharpened stakes, and collected rocks for their slings. Meanwhile, Chief Olu's army marched towards the village, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. Olu was confident of victory, unaware of the surprise that awaited him. The first wave of Olu's warriors fell into a hidden pit, their cries of surprise and pain echoing through the forest. The second wave was met with a hail of rocks and arrows, forcing them to retreat in disarray. Olu, enraged by these setbacks, led the third wave himself. He was a formidable warrior, his sword flashing like lightning as he cut down anyone who stood in his path. Adebowale stepped forward to meet him. The two men clashed their sword and they traded blows. The duel between Adebowale and Chief Olu was spectacle to behold. The prince, despite his lack of armor, he fought with the skill and agility of a seasoned warrior. Olu, fueled by the rage and ambition, was a force of nature, his blows raining down like thunder. The battle raged on, neither man willing to yield. Olu, however, had the advantage of strength and experience. He managed to disarm Adebowale, sending the prince's sword clattering to the ground. With a triumphant roar, Olu raised his sword for the final blow. But just as he was about to strike, a rock whizzed through the air, striking him on the head. He stumbled, his vision blurring. Adebowale seized the opportunity. He tackled Olu to the ground, wrestling the sword from his grasp. With a final surge of adrenaline, he pinned Olu's arms to the ground, his sword pointed at the chief's throat. The battlefield fell silent. All eyes were on the prince and the chief. The tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Adebowale, panting from exertion, held Olu's life in his hands. He could end it all with a single thrust of his sword, avenge the fallen villagers, and secure the throne for himself. But Adebowale was not a man of vengeance. He had seen the horrors of war, the senseless bloodbath of the destruction in rout. He knew that killing Olu was not going to bring back the dead, nor would it heal the wound of the past. Yield, Olu, Adebowale commanded, his voice surprisingly calm. Your ambition has brought nothing but pain and suffering to this land. Lay down your arms and surrender." Olu, dashed and defeated, could only stare at the prince in disbelief. He had never imagined himself in such a position, at the mercy of a man he considered beneath him. After a long, agonizing moment, Olu nodded weakly. "I yield," he muttered, his voice barely audible. A cheer erupted from the villagers. They had won. Their prince had triumphed over a tyrant. Their village had been saved. Adebowale helped Olu to his feet, disarming him and handing him over to the villagers. He then turned to his people, his face alight with pride and gratitude. "We have won this day," he declared, "but our victory is not one of blood and vengeance. It is a victory of courage, unity, and enduring spirit of our people." In the aftermath of the battle, the villagers celebrated their hard-won victory. There was music and dancing, feasting and laughter. Adebowale, the hero of the hour, was showered with praise and gratitude. But amidst the celebrations, the prince found himself drawn to a quiet corner of the village. There, under the soft glow of the moonlight, he found Eshe. "You were right," he said, taking her hands in his. "Your wisdom and courage saved us all." Eshe smiled, her eyes sparkling with pride. "We all played our parts, Adebowale, but it was your leadership that inspired us." Adebowale looked deep into Eshe's eyes, his heart swelling with love and admiration. He knew that he had found what he had been searching for all along, a love that was pure, a love that valued the man, not the prince. "Eshe," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "I have something to tell you." He knelt before her, his eyes locked with hers. "I am not a humble traveler, as you believe. I am Adebowale, son of King Obafemi." Eshe gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. But why did you deceive me?" Adebowale explained his desire to find a love that was so true, a love that was not blinded by the wealth and status. "And have you found it?" Eshe asked, her voice soft and hopeful. Adebowale smiled. "I have found it, Eshe. I have found it in you." Eshe's heart leaped with joy. She had fallen with this kind stranger, and now she discovered that he was a prince who loved her for who she was, not for what she could offer him. "Adebowale," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears, "I love you too." They embraced, their hearts beating as one. Their love, born in the shadow of deception, had blossomed into something beautiful and true. Word of Adebowale's love for Eshe spread through the kingdom, causing a mix of shock and delight. Some nobles were appalled by the idea of a prince marrying a commoner, but the majority of people rejoiced. They had grown to love Eshe through the tales of her wisdom and courage, and they saw in her a queen who would rule with kindness and compassion. King Obafemi, upon hearing of his son's love, was overjoyed. He had always wanted Adebowale to find a love that would bring him happiness, and he could see it in Eshe. Preparations for the royal wedding began in earnest. The kingdom of Ndoro was abuzz with excitement. The villagers of Eshe were particularly thrilled. Their daughter was going to be queen. They sent their finest weavers to create the most exquisite fabrics for Eshe's wedding attire, each thread infused with love and blessings. The palace, too, was transformed into a wonderland of colors and scent. The garden was blooming with exotic flower, and courtyard adorned with lot and lot of ornament, and the halls filled with aroma of delicious food across the kingdom. Eshe, overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all, found comfort in Adebowale's unwavering love and support. He was patient with her anxieties, always ready with a kind word or a gentle touch. He even took her on a tour of the palace, explaining the history and significance of each room, easing her fears of feeling lost in the vastness of the new home. On the eve of the wedding, Eshe was presented with a stunning gown woven from the finest silk and adorned with shimmering beads and pearls. It was a gift from the Queen Mother, who had taken Eshe under her wings, teaching her the ways of the court and offering her wisdom and guidance. The wedding day arrived, and the kingdom of Ndoro held its breath. The ceremony took place in the grand courtyard, under the watchful gaze of the ancestors. Eshe, radiant in her wedding gown, walked down the aisles towards Adebowale, her heart brimming with love and happiness. Adebowale, clothed in his royal robes, watched as his bride approached. He had never seen her look more beautiful. He knew that he was the luckiest man in the world. As they exchanged vows, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden light on the couple. It was as if the ancestors themselves were smiling down on them, blessing their union. The wedding feast was a joyous affair, filled with music, dancing, and laughter. The villagers of Eshe were given a place of honor, their contributions to the wedding acknowledged and celebrated. As the night wore on, Adebowale and Eshe strolled away from the bustling of the ceremony, seeking a quiet moment alone. They found themselves on a balcony overlooking the kingdom, the stars twinkling above them. "Are you happy, my queen?" Adebowale asked, his voice soft and tender. Eshe turned to him, her eyes shining with love. "I am the happiest woman in the world, my king," she replied, her voice filled with warmth and gratitude. They embraced, their love a beacon of hope in a world often filled with darkness and despair. Their story was a testament to the power of love to transcend boundaries, to heal wounds, and to bring happiness even in the most unexpected places. And so, the African prince who pretended to be poor found true love not in the glittering halls of his palace, but in the humble heart of a weaver's daughter. Their love story became a legend, passed down through generations, reminding everyone that true love knows no rank or status, only the purity of heart.